How's it going, everybody? My name's Will Robson. You can check out my work at facebook.com/RobsonINK. And this will be, or is, part 5 of the pinup series I'm doing for Lady Frostblood. And you can check out this book at facebook.com/ I believe it's Lady Frostblood or Lady Frostblood comic. The link will be in the description below. So sorry about that, not knowing that. Anyway, so I'm getting into the inks now. Now this video may jump around a bit because I was actually recording a show with a really great artist named John Rector. We're both the artists on this book called The Standard, which is a Comics Tribe book written by John Lees. This show's already starting out as lots of plugging, but essentially, while I was inking, we were recording a show called Happy Sketch Time, and you can check that out by going to John Rector's channel, which I believe is youtube.com/artbyjar or something like that. Again, I don't know the links. All of this will be in the description below. It's a fun little show where we sort of chat and talk comics and our goals and all stuff like that. So I'm doing the hair here. I'm getting a bit more confident with rendering out my hair. I've been treating it more like thicker clumps of shapes instead of thinner strands, except for these sort of thinner strands at the end. I'm not the happiest with sort of her hair tied back here, but hair is tricky, that's for sure. It's but I'm trying to break down the lighting of hair into essentially the planes that I break the head down into, where you've got the side plane, front plane, top plane, bottom plane. So I'm trying to think about that whilst doing this. And I had a bit of trouble figuring out how I wanted to start doing leather, because I have jumped into actually putting heavy shadows into my work only for the past couple of months, and I'm figuring out the way I want to tackle everything. And you'll see me actually bring up images I've been looking, because as we were recording the show, John suggested looking at certain artists, so I was looking at things. And then the eventual decision I make is sort of the metal rendering I do, where you sort of render everything out in dots, and it's sort of like a texture pattern. I've seen people do it on leather jackets before, and I think it's the most sort of realistic thing. I was drawing a tricep there. This is when me and John were talking about ankles and triceps on the show. But I figured out my go-to person now when I have these questions, because I love Greg Capullo for drawing faces, and I love John Romita Jr. for drawing hands and storytelling, and a bunch of other people. I love the way they do stuff. David Finch for a lot of rendering. But my go-to guy, as I've said a lot in these videos, is John Byrne. I just sort of was looking through his stuff last night, and the way he does certain things, and every time I see it, I just go, oh yeah, that's exactly how I want to do it, because it's sort of like an easier way to figure it out than looking at someone like Todd McFarlane, because I would assume, since Todd McFarlane was heavily influenced by John Byrne, that was definitely someone he looked at. So here will be a test of me trying to figure out how to do leather. You're going to see a bunch of weird stuff happening here. So yeah, this is when we were on the stream together, so I started bringing up, looking for references of stuff, and eventually I sort of just didn't like anything I was seeing, so I ended up doing my own thing, which is good. Yeah, that was who he wanted me to look at, was Adam Hughes, so that's what I did. Who I actually never heard of before. You'll see a lot of like talking and pointing and stuff. Again, yeah, if you want to listen to that show, you go to John Rector's channel called Happy Sketch Time. I think you could probably just search Happy Sketch Time on YouTube. It's an event, not a video, so I don't know what's going on there. So here I'm trying to do like I guess like a latex effect, but I realised this is a leather jacket and not a latex jacket, so it has a different sort of mentality to it. So that rendering see on a rib cage there, that's what I'm talking about. That's sort of the John Byrne that I'm trying to get, which is a blend between this sort of feather rendering and my usual cross-hatching rendering. And you'll see me drawing multiple lines over and over again, because I sort of like to do my lines until they're perfect to me. And that's why these things take long. You know, you might look at an image and think, oh, that probably didn't take that long to do, but you have to understand that it's not sort of you sit down, one go, boom, you're done, and you move on. I wish it was like that, but it's not. I'm a bit worried because there might be some long pauses coming up in this video, because I start going into this comic story idea I had, so I get a bit sidetracked. But anyway, what I've been doing recently, besides all that is planning my trip to London Super Comic Con convention, which is the 15th and 16th of March, so it's coming up very soon. And I know that IDW is doing portfolio reviews, I know that Marcosia is doing portfolio reviews, and a bunch of other random people. 2000 AD, I think you can sort of just go up to their booth and talk to them. So I'm getting ready. This is probably going to be on the front of my portfolio, because you shouldn't, well, I'm not talking from experience, but I'm talking from watching videos of publishers and editors talking about what they expect from portfolio reviews. They don't really want to see your pinups, because they want to see if you can tell a story. So essentially like 5 sequential pages. Since I do pencils and inks, I'm going to be printing out both the pencils and the inks and have them side by side so they can see my process. My process obviously is a bit different because I am the inker and the penciler. So my pencils, as you can see, are very rough because, as you can see, since I watch digitally, I can just erase and do whatever I want in the pencil stage. Or the ink stage, I mean. The ink stage is like my pencil stage. So yeah, I've been getting my portfolio ready. I just ordered business cards, so that's very exciting. And the only problem with that is I'm thinking, okay, I bought 250 business cards, and it has one image that like one of my most recent images that I think is good enough to be on a business card. Now I know well, the way I get better is it seems like every month and a half there's a major jump in my work, because just from working constantly, so I'm worried that I'm going to have 250 business cards where I look at the image and I'm like, oh, I can do better than that now, I might as well have to buy 250 more, so hopefully I can get rid of as many of them as possible. So here's more sort of just fiddling around with the leather jacket, and I think I just say, oh, forget it, I'm going to go try something else. I think this is about just as far as I get at this stage with this. I don't think I get much further in the inks here. Do I get this boot done? I'm not sure. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that's a 2-day convention. I bought like the early bird ticket, which means I can, because I went there 3 years ago and I pitched a story idea of mine. I didn't show my art portfolio, but I had to wait online for about an hour and a half to get in, because there was just so many people online. So I figured, well, this time I'll spend the extra, I think it was only like £4 extra to get the right ticket. So I bought that ticket, so let's see how this goes. And last time I went, it was nice enough, I knew Ian Churchill was going to be there. Now I know Ian Churchill from his Deadpool days, working at Marvel back in the 90s, so I was super excited to sort of get his autograph, and just, he's one of my, I think he's a really great artist, so definitely one of my influence. I wouldn't say a major influence, but he certainly has little things that he does that are this 90s rendering style that I absolutely love. So I actually got to meet him, and he saw that I had my portfolio in my hand, but I didn't have an art portfolio. I had a story pitch portfolio, which you were allowed to do. I don't know if you can still do that. And it had some artwork for a story I was making called Dino Zombies, which is zombie dinosaurs, which I've sort of stopped working on for the most part right now. But when I was getting his autograph, he's like, what you got there? I was like, oh, it's my sort of portfolio. He's like, oh, well, come to my booth later and I'll take a look at it and see what I think. And I was like, oh, great. So I went to his booth and he gave me fantastic crit that, like, the stuff he said I still use today, which was like, you need to move your panels around, you need to really bring variations into your shots. All your shots are straight shots. I was doing all the rookie mistakes of every shot was a static, straight on sort of 2 shot, and it wasn't great. And he said a bunch of other things, practice stuff you really don't want to draw, and you'll just finally get better at it, where you don't have to worry about it anymore. And just really great advice, to the point where, you know, 2 years later I bring my stuff to a different artist by the name of Buzz, who's an inker at DC, and he said, oh, well, I like how you're moving the panels around, and I like how you're moving the shots around. Basically every compliment this other guy said 2 years later was the exact advice Ian Churchill gave me, so that's great. So I know he's going to be there again, so I'm going to show my stuff to him again, see if he remembers me, and then I'm going to ask him, because I heard this was something that people were more than willing to do, is you say, hey, do you know 3 other guys at this con that would be willing to look at my work and give me reviews? And apparently people go like, oh yeah, you know, talk to this guy, tell him I sent you, and stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to be making a video. I probably won't be making a vlog of me actually at the con, because I don't like sticking a camera and talking to a camera in public, but I will fill everybody in on how that adventure went, what the editors at IDW, Marcosia, Boom Studios, all these people said about my work, and see what I'll need to improve on. It's going to be very exciting to actually go to get my portfolio reviewed with a slight bit more confidence than I have had before. Because again, my stuff is not ready for Marvel or DC, but I think I could get away with doing a little book for Marcosia or something. That's just being a bit cocky, I suppose. I don't know. I don't want to jinx myself. Whatever. I'm still drawing comics anyway, so that's cool. So now I just sort of decided, well, I'm just going to focus on the light source. So if you look at a jacket, there's more light in it because it's closer to the light than her legs, so there's more shadow on her legs, and I kind of wanted the material on her legs to be a bit darker. And I wasn't going to do my typical sort of those tick render lines. And by that I mean those right there. I did those on the things around it, and when I got to the actual jacket and trousers itself, I sort of do this circle effect right here. I sort of do thick circles at the bottom and build up to little circles, and it makes this cool. I usually use this on like pipes. I probably am going to use it on pipes in this image, but it sort of just brings a bit of texture to it. You know, you see some of these leather jackets, and they have, if you look at the way the light hits them, they all have these little bumps and stuff on them. So that's what I was going for. And then I had the ticks around other things, and it sort of just brings a nice variation onto of everything's not rendered the same way, so it's a bit clearer. Because even I'm going super crazy rendering recently, just because I learned how to do it. But I've noticed in some of my client work recently, it's a bit too, it sort of clutters up everything, and I don't know if it's something that the colorist can save later on, or if it's something that I should work on already. So here you're going to see me fail at drawing a beard. This is something I realized, right, you need to study this, facial hair, because it just wasn't looking good enough. It just, I don't know, it didn't appeal to me. And all the line weights were all over the place, and it just looked like I was sort of just scratching in doodles. It didn't look like a 3D form, it just looked like me scratching over a flat surface, and you know, I got to make it look as 3D as possible. And to draw all these straight lines, I've sort of taken the marker and I've put the correction on to I think about 6 or 10, and so I can draw nice straight lines, because I could use the curve tool, but I don't feel like I'm drawing then, like pulling that line, and I can easily erase and sort of fix what I'm doing. So here I just sort of end up putting thicker lines in on the bottom of his beard, and then thinner lines on the outside, and now I give him a nice thick bushy beard. And it probably, I wanted this guy to be scruffy, but in the end I've got to hit a deadline, and also I think this definitely looks better than it was before. So now I'm getting into this gun. Now, it was great that I drew this gun from my mind without thinking about the perspective of it. But when it actually came to the inks of it, you'll see that it's going well, and then suddenly when I get sort of near the back, all the angles and stuff go a bit off here. So I put that in. That's what I should have followed, was the angles of that. But then suddenly I tilt the gun right there, so it's pointing more towards us, and it changes sort of the plane that gun's on. You'll see how the back of that gun is tilted away from us, but the top of it is pointing. So eventually I draw this gun in a position that I didn't want to draw it in the first place, and it makes the gun look a lot thinner. Now, after sort of inking and rendering it out, it's totally passable. I mean, it's something that I'm sure you'll notice when you look at it, but I'm hoping that the first time you look at this final piece, the thing you'll notice is the girl kicking the dude in the face. So here I'm making another layer, and I'm drawing in blue, and then I'm sort of just combining those layers afterwards. So here now I'm sort of, since this gun is, the light's from above, but thinking in planes, like that will be the plane that's not the furthest away from light, because that would be under it, but it's going to bring a nice dynamic to it. I'm hoping, I've realised something I've been starting to do recently with my not client work, but my sequential work, is before I get into the ink stage, or even the pencil stage, I start roughing in my blacks, because I've realised recently there hasn't been a great balance of how dark things are on my page. I've sort of just started inking, and at the end I'm like, oh well, that's the way it is. And I've noticed, I saw a couple of Greg Capullo roughs, and I noticed that he sort of, like, his roughs are essentially a lot of spotting black, so he knows the balance of the use of black on the page, because you don't, depending on what's going on the page, you don't want to use too much. Anyway, that was part 5. I didn't get to get the inks done, so hopefully I'll have these inks done by tomorrow or the following day, but you'll know because the video will be up. Anyway, thanks for watching. You can check out my work at facebook.com/RobsonINK. Toodle bums.